this session, we will be reviewing the point of sale located on the left middle of your screen. Clicking on point of sale, starting at the top, we have a field labeled input item number. Here you are able to manually type in your item number, click submit to bring it up on the receipt side. You could also scan your retail items if you have a barcode scanner to bring up that item on the receipt side. We have an inventory drop-down menu where your inventory items will be listed first in numerical order into alphabetical order. You would be able to locate your item and click on it with your mouse and then click select to bring it up on the receipt side. You can also search for your particular inventory item by its sales department by clicking the blue Departments tab. Your sales departments would be showing for you here, and you would simply click on the department name and then select the item under that department, and we see how that is brought up on the receipt for us. The final way that we have for bringing up items onto our receipt is using these Quick Pick tabs. You have 4 pages of Quick Pick tabs that you can navigate through by clicking on the page number. Once you've located the item that you would like to bring on the receipt, go ahead and click the item, and that will bring it onto the receipt side for you. We'll see that underneath the receipt portion, we have our subtotal, any applicable tax, and then our sale total. Directly beneath the sale total, we do have a few icons that we could use pertaining to needing to modify the transaction. For example, our first icon that we have is called Delete Item. If we brought up an item by mistake, or maybe the customer has changed their mind on a particular item, you would be able to click on the item right on the receipt and then click Delete Item in red, and we'll see how that has removed the item from our receipt. Based on employee permission settings, if they have the access to discount items or adjust prices on items, they would be able to perform these 2 functions. Starting with discounting an item, we would select the item on our receipt that we would like to discount, and then click Discount Item in the teal blue color here. Here we would go ahead and specify in the field the percentage of discount that we would like to apply to that particular item. It also gives you the option to discount all items if we wanted to discount the whole receipt by that particular percentage. Next, the employee would go ahead and input their user password, and if they have the permission to perform this function, then they will be able to proceed on with this transaction. If the employee does not have permission to discount items, it will not let them complete this function. Clicking Continue. If we go back to our transaction, we do see where that pricing has been modified. The next option we have for modification is adjusting the price. And adjusting the price is simply changing the item's retail price from one price to a different price for this one transaction. So selecting the item that you would like to adjust, and then clicking Adjust Price in the royal blue color. We'll see the current retail price. In the field beneath, we're able to change the pricing just for this one transaction. And again, the employee would input their employee user password. And if they have the permission to perform this function, then they can continue on with the process of this transaction. If they do not have the permission to do so, it will not let them perform this function. And as we come back to our receipt, we do see where the price has been modified accordingly as we just adjusted it. There is a tab here called No Tax. If you wanted to remove sales tax from a particular item, you would be able to do so if that's applicable. Beneath these modification icons, we do have our payment methods in the green tabs directly below. Starting with cash, if a customer is paying for this transaction with cash today, we would go ahead and click the green Cash tab. You'll notice that the cash field is automatically highlighted for us, and we would just go ahead and input the total amount of cash being received in from the customer. If the total equals $2.70, then maybe the customer is paying us with a $5 bill, we would go ahead and input $5 as our cash being received. In the second column, toward the bottom, there is a field labeled Member Number. Had this transaction been for one of your actual members, it is a good idea to go ahead and input that customer's member account number if we have that information readily available, or you can search for your member by their last name. As you begin to start to type in the first few letters of their last name, you will see a list that will populate for you that will show you the members in your system that have that last name. You can scroll down to the list and click on the person that you want, and we see how that will automatically place their member number into this field. This field is not required, but it is a good idea to use it because it will ensure that all of our members have an accurate transaction history. By doing this step, it will definitely make sure that this transaction is listed under the member's transaction history. The next field that we see is labeled email. We are able to email sales receipts to our customers. If you check the box labeled email, and if an email address populates into the field for you, that's just indicating that this customer does indeed have an email on file. If this field were to remain blank, that's just indicating that the member does not have an email on file, in which case you would have to just manually type it into the space. Directly beneath the email field, there is a field labeled Note, where you could type in a short note that you would like to print out at the bottom of this customer's receipt. Our last field is called User Password, where you would type in your employee user password, just indicating that you are the employee that processed this transaction. We do have an icon off to the right of user password called Split Commissions. If the employee is ringing up this transaction for a different sales associate or a trainer that is supposed to receive the commission for this particular transaction, you would be able to go ahead and select Split Commissions at this time. And for your line items that are listed on the receipt, you would be able to specify which employees are to receive credit or commission for the sales of that item. You would just select the employee's name and then specify the percentage of commission that they're supposed to receive for that sale. Just make sure that you click Save if you have made any modifications here. Once we are complete with these steps, we would click Finish. And then we do see here where our sales receipt will populate for printing if we choose to print this receipt for the customer. We see the club information at the top, we have the receipt number, we have the employee that rang up the transaction, and if we have tied this transaction or noted who the member was to a particular person, we'll be able to see who that member was at the bottom of the receipt. From this point, I'm going to go ahead and click Continue so we can review how to process a transaction being paid for by a check. Once we have our items on our receipt that we would like at this time, we would go ahead and select Check as our payment option. We'll notice that our total amount is already placed in the check field for us, so there's no need to retype that amount because it's already in the field for us at this time. Our next step would be to go over to the member number field and notate who the customer is to ensure that this transaction gets listed under their transaction history. Of course, you do have the option of emailing the receipt to the customer if you would like to do that, but we'll notice here that we do have a specific field to notate the check number being received in. We'll go ahead and notate the check number and type in our employee user password at the bottom and then click Finish. So our receipt will populate for us here, and the little bit of a difference that we'll notice is that this time the check number is listed on the receipt, just noting that it was paid for by check. So clicking Continue. We'll next take a look at how to treat a credit card transaction. So if somebody is wanting to pay for their transaction with a credit card or debit card, we would go ahead, once our items are up on the receipt, select credit card in green as our payment option. We'll see that the total amount due of $4.67 is already placed in the CC or credit card field for us, so there's nothing to do there. We would just go over to the member number column and notate who the customer is, again, either by their account number, which is usually their key tag number, or searching for them by their last name and selecting their name, which will populate their account number in the field for us. At the bottom here, we would go ahead and input our employee user password and then click Finish. Being that this is a credit card transaction, we would go ahead and either swipe the card through our credit card reader at this time and click Finish for it to process. If you are choosing to manually type in the card information, you would be able to certainly type in the card info at this time and click Finish and allow it to process. And finally, there is an option for charging the transaction to a card on file. Keep in mind, card on file does not always mean the card that's saved on the member account for their membership dues payment. Card on file is a specific section on the member account that we'll see in a later training session called Modifying of Accounts, but there is a specific area on the member account that's called Card on File. It's a blue Rolodex icon where you would have to have the member's credit card information stored in that specific spot in order to be able to use it from the point of sale. So if this customer does have a card on file that they're wanting us to charge the transaction to, you would simply come down to this section labeled Card on File, and in this box that's off to the right of the member account number, it says Search by Name, and we would click on that space and definitely search for the customer by their last name. And this is going to go and look in the system just to make sure that this customer does have a credit card stored in that specific area for point of sale transactions, in which case you would be able to see that person with their card, select that information, and allow the transaction to process on that particular card for that member. Our next payment option is called Coupon. The coupon option that we have in Club Systems is more so to be used for comped items, free items that you're maybe giving to the customer, but you're wanting to deduct it from your stock count. Maybe somebody won a t-shirt or something to that effect. If the transaction is going to be not being receiving any funds for the transaction, you can select Coupon as your payment method. So once we select Coupon, we're going to see here that the coupon field is automatically highlighted. So we are to input the amount of the coupon. So the amount would basically have to equal the total amount. So a coupon, of course, is just a separate method of payment. It's not really any funds being received, but it's just notating that you took a coupon as payment, and it will deduct these items from your stock count. If you do have a coupon in the true sense of a coupon, in that it's a certain dollar amount off of a transaction total, then we can treat that as a split payment. So just going back to Coupon quickly to see how we would finish out this transaction, I would just go ahead and put in the total amount of the transaction in the coupon field, go to where it says member number, and type in the last name or account number to locate the member. Notate the coupon number that was received in, and then put in our employee password and click Finish. And we'll see how this transaction is complete, and it does definitely notate that it was paid by using a coupon, etc. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at how to process a split payment transaction. So split payment is typically two methods of payment being used for one transaction, whether it's part cash or part credit card, or maybe the customer is writing a check for a portion of the transaction and putting the rest on their card, or in the sense of a true coupon where it's a dollar amount off a transaction and they're going to be paying the balance in a different pay method. We treat all of those sorts of transactions as a split payment. So once we have our particular items on the receipt, we would go ahead and select split payment as our payment option. Now we would have to divvy up or put the balances in the correct field. For example, if this customer was wanting to pay $2 in cash and put the rest on their debit card, we would just have to split up the total accordingly. Whatever they're telling us they're going to pay in the first payment method, the balance left over would be put in the second pay method field. Or in the case of a coupon, maybe it's a $1 off coupon for this transaction. So I would put in my coupon field $1, and the remaining balance of $3.67 would just go under the appropriate payment method field on how they're going to pay for that balance. So you can split up the transaction using any two of the payment method fields that we have here. Keep in mind, if you have put a particular balance in the CC or credit card field, you will still get the credit card screen to swipe the card for the amount that you had specified in that area. So we just go to where it says member number and type in our member's account number, or again, search for them by their last name. Type in our employee user password, and then click Finish. And we have our transaction here, and it does show the two payment methods that were used for this particular transaction. The next payment method that we have is called freebies. If your facility has gone in and set up certain inventory items up on the freebie program, which are basically, as members make purchases, they start to rack up points, and then they can turn around and redeem those points that they've accumulated towards, say, getting their next item for free. That's what this particular payment method is used for. So once we have our items on the receipt, and let's say the member wants to use their freebie points as payment for this transaction, we would click on freebies. And it takes us straight away to the member number field. You see how the cursor is blinking in this field because it wants us to go and look up that member to see if they have the required number of points to qualify for this free transaction. So once we type in that member account number or member name and then select the name, it will go to that member account and see if they have the points necessary for this transaction. Our next payment method field is called On Account. On Account is a payment method field to be very careful of, because we may look at this initially and think, well, if I click On Account, that means that this transaction is going to be charged to their account in the sense that their credit card is going to go get charged, or their bank account will go get charged for this transaction. And that's completely not the case at all. This On Account payment method, if we were to select this, what this is doing and saying is that this total, $4.67, is not going to be paid at this time. It's actually going to go on the member's account as a balance owing. So in essence, what we're doing in this circumstance and situation is that we are allowing the member to run up a tab. This balance will be placed on their account as owing for them to pay later. So be very careful about that. When you select On Account, that means we're allowing this person to pay for this transaction later. They're not going to give us any sort of payment at this time, and this will show as a balance owing on their membership account. On Account does not mean that this transaction will be directly billed to their credit card or to their bank account or any billing information that they have set up on their account for monthly billing. For those sorts of transactions where a card on file is needing to be charged, we treat that as a regular credit card transaction. On Account, again, will just specifically put this balance owing on the member account for them to pay for it later. So it will show up as owing on the member account. And having an owing balance is another reason for somebody to red screen, so keep that in mind. If we place something as owing on the member account, next time they check in, they possibly will be red flagged for having an owing balance. So that is what On Account will do. It will place the owing amount on the member account as a balance owing. The next payment method that we have is called gift card. If you do sell gift cards from your facility and a member was wanting to redeem those in as payment, you would be able to select gift card here. We would notate the amount that's to be deducted from the gift card, notate who the customer is by their account number or searching for them by their last name, and then in the gift card number field you would type in the gift card number so we could deduct the transaction from that gift card total. We would type in our employee user password at the bottom to finish out the transaction by clicking Finish. If you are needing to look up a gift card to see what the value is, you do have gift card value there in purple. Here you would be able to type in the gift card number and hit continue to see not only the transactions that have been made on that card, but what the current balance left on the card is. We have void sale in red. Clicking void sale will void out this sale that's not going to be completed at this time. We have close. If you click close, that will completely close out the point of sale screen for you. And then finally, down here in orange, we have a few more icons to go through, starting with sale. If you click on sale, you're going to notice that it just brings us to the same screen that we were on for processing a sale, because when we open up the point of sale screen, it's already automatically defaulted to process a sale transaction. So the instances that we would use this tab is if, for example, maybe we're processing a return or a refund in the system, and if we're going to leave this screen open for the next employee to use, then we would just go ahead and click on sale to bring us back to our normal sale screen. The second icon that we see at the bottom here is called Receive Payment. Receive Payment is to be used when you are receiving a payment in from a customer and you're wanting to apply that directly to their account and directly to any balance that they have on their account. We treat that as a receive payment. So once in the point of sale, you would definitely come to the very bottom and click on Receive Payment and then proceed on. So up at the top, it's wanting to know apply payment to. So you could either input the customer's membership account number, or you can again search for them by their last name and then select their name from the list. And we'll see that that populates the account number into the field for us. You can hit your tab key, T-A-B, tab on your keyboard, and we're going to see how that brings down some information in yellow for us. So it will list any service or membership that the member has, what the monthly amount for that is, any sales tax to be applied, what the member's current balance is, and then it gives us a grand total. When we are looking at or wanting to tell the customer what they owe as of today, currently on their account, we're always to look under the balance column. We see how the balance column and the total column are giving us different amounts because this customer had a credit balance on their account of $150. So what it's doing here is it's deducting the member's monthly dues of $50 and leaving us with a credit of $100 on the member account. Anytime we see negative balances like this on a customer account, this does not mean that they owe. It actually means that the member has a credit balance. So we usually just refer you to look under the balance column always for current balances that are owing on the member account, if any. And if the member has credit, then you'll see a negative balance like we do in this case. The total column, again, is not always going to give you an accurate total as of what's due today, because it's going to factor in their normal monthly payments, any service payments, and add that to the balance and then give you that total, which is not what's currently due on the member account as of today. So we just focus to see what's under the balance column to let the member know what they have as being owing today on their account. Beneath this information, we have a few different payment method fields where we can notate the payment being received, how they're paying for this particular payment, whether it's cash, check, or credit card. You would simply type in the amount of the payment in the appropriate pay method field. If you would like to type in a note at the bottom of their payment, you certainly can for it to print out on their receipts. We would type in our employee user password and click Finish. It will ask you to confirm your amount always that you inputted as the payment, and we click OK. And then it will bring us to one additional screen where it's wanting to confirm and make sure that we are applying the payment to the correct person in the system. And yes, this is the person that I selected. So I'll hit Continue, and we'll see how this particular transaction receipt is saying now payment received. And it was applied to this customer in our system, and it was $25 in cash. That was the payment that was made toward that account. So please be sure to always treat your payments being received in from your customers as a received payment, whether it's toward their balance, maybe they're wanting to pay ahead for next month. Anytime we're wanting those funds to be directly applied to their account, we will treat that as a received payment. If we are needing to issue a refund or a return to a customer, we would come into point of sale and then click on the next button here at the bottom, which is labeled Return. When you click on the Return tab, it automatically changes your screen and it says this is the POS return item page, and we see the previously green total fields here have been changed to bright red. It's just indicating and drawing to your attention that you are on the right screen now to process a return or a refund. So our steps from here on out are very similar to a sales transaction, except in this case we're giving the money back to the customer. We would still have to bring up an inventory item on the receipt to be refunded, whether it's an actual product that's being returned or if we're having to give a customer back a refund back for their monthly dues that were billed. You would still have to bring up some sort of an inventory item on your receipt to be refunded. So once we have the item on the receipt that we would like to refund at this time, you would go ahead and select your payment method next on how that will be refunded. If it's going to be cash back, select cash. If the gym is going to write a check to that customer, you would select check. And if it's going to be put back onto the customer's credit card, you would select credit card. As long as we're doing it from the return screen like we're on now, indicating by the red fields, the customer is sure to get the money back, especially if it's being done on a credit card. It's very important to make sure that once you go into point of sale that you click on return before you start any other steps. Please keep in mind, through the Club Systems point of sale, there is nowhere to input a bank account number and routing number. So for those members that are maybe normally paying out of their bank account for their monthly dues and then needing to be refunded for, say, those monthly dues, you would have to issue that refund back to the customer via cash or check, or have the customer provide you with the credit card or debit card that they would like the refund placed back on, because there is nowhere in this point of sale screen to type in an actual routing number and account number to be able to issue the refund back into that bank account. So just keep that in mind. So once we select our payment method, we would just input the total amount that's to be given back to the customer. Where it says member number, notate who the customer is, so this goes listed under their transaction history. If you would like to type a note about the return at the bottom of their receipt, you certainly can. And then we would type in our employee user password. We click finish to finish out the transaction. And we'll just notice that this transaction now says credit/return. And it gives the customer that that was for here at the bottom. And if that were done through the credit card method, just going through that example, if this amount was to be put back onto the customer's credit card, you would still select credit card as your payment method. We see the total amount due back is already in the CC field for us. We go to where it says member number to notate the customer, put in our password, click finish, and you will come to the credit card screen, being that this is going to be refunded back onto the customer's card. So you would be able to either manually type the card information in and then hit finish, or swipe the card at this time through your credit card reader and click finish in order for it to process back onto that particular credit card. And as long as we're doing it from the return screen, the amount is assured to be put back on the customer's card. The next icon that we have is called No Sale. No Sale is to be used if you're opening the drawer without processing a transaction. It will ask you to input your employee user password, just indicating who's opening the drawer without processing a transaction and reference as to why. Petty cash is next. Petty cash is removing cash from the drawer for a miscellaneous purpose. It will have you notate the amount that's being removed, reference as to why, and then user password as to whom is taking the cash out of the drawer. And then finally, our last icon in this section is called Daily Summary. Daily Summary is your end of day or end of shift report. Depending on how often you choose to run this report, it will break down your transactions that were taken during that particular time, whether it was for one particular shift or for the whole business day. You will only have to make adjustments to the dates and time fields that we have here the very first day that you use Club Systems, because every time after that, the system is just going to pick up where you left off, and so on and so forth. So if today was the first day that you're using the program, we would just make the adjustments accordingly to reflect today's date. Our from would be first thing this morning when we started to use point of sale and ring up transactions, to the current time, which is the time right now. And if we were to run this report, it's just going to give us a breakdown of the transactions taken during that time. So like I mentioned before, you can do it at the end of each shift if you would prefer to run the report that way, or you can just do it one time at the end of the business day as an end of day report. So feel free to print this off at the bottom where it says print to have this for your records. And then you will also have this screen for any funds being left in the drawer for the next shift or the next business day. So you can count out what's being left in the drawer, giving you a grand total of a starting cash amount for the next shift or the next business day. That concludes our review on point of sale. Thank you.